Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Briarcrest Christian School Student Ministries podcast. My name is Jason Ellis, and I'm the Director of Student Ministries here at Briarcrest. And we are, as always, so excited that you have decided to join us today as we talk with the Logan Longo about some scriptures that mean a lot to him, about his faith, about what the Lord's doing in his life, and just his time at Briarcrest and beyond. So, hey, Logan.
Hello, Coach Jay.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here.
Hey, how are you today?
No, doing good.
Good.
Beautiful day.
So
How are you?
we're actually outside of Briarcrest
Yeah.
now, so it kind of feels good to be back.
Oh yeah.
Fill us in last 9 weeks or so of school for you. Kind of just maybe a brief synopsis of the ups and the downs and all of that. Just because I know that every one of us had to go through that together. Just kind of the craziness of what was COVID-19 cancellations and closures and all of that. So just kind of get us up to speed because this is the first time I've gotten to spend a lot of time with you in about 9 weeks.
Yeah,
So
it's been a minute.
yeah.
I would say probably like the one word kind of like summary is like a struggle, because I mean school, it's like sitting in front of a computer. It's so hard to get up to sit through it, and you're just like, ugh. It's not. You don't get to see your friends every day, to see their smiles, make memories and stuff like that. But I mean, got through it. It's interesting. But it's just so hard to find that motivation to just do anything. Because, I know for me, I was just, like, I didn't want to get out of bed. I just do class from bed because it's like, what's the point? I'm just going to go back to sleep after this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I mean, it was, I think, a struggle for all of us in that way because it was nice to have at least some structure. Yep. Because it was kind of like the best we could do with what we had, but it was still frustrating because, you lose that. You need to be at a certain place at a certain time, and you lost a little bit of that accountability. So I completely get that. But you'll still get to graduate in a couple of weeks. You've been working on your speech at all?
haven't even started.
Okay.
haven't even started.
You got plenty of time.
Like 10 days.
So what we were talking about before we started recording, what are some of the things, because you're leaving behind a legacy. You are certainly a leader here in your 4 years here. What are some things you would encourage, the students that are still here, your rising freshmen, sophomores, or juniors or seniors, what would you encourage them with? Maybe some stuff that's meant a lot to you, some opportunities you took advantage of, or maybe some things that you didn't get to take advantage of that you wish you had.
I would say the biggest thing for me is just getting plugged in, finding people, teachers, friends to learn from, because there's so many different backgrounds here and people that come from different, raised differently and, different experiences. And there's so many different things to learn, even like school-wise and even outside of school, So that's one thing, just find people to learn from, to glean from them and all that stuff. But I mean, getting plugged in, getting involved, that was huge for me because I came in freshman year and I didn't know anyone. So I was kind of like, all alone. I had maybe one or two friends that I knew. But I mean, when I turned sophomore, junior year and I started getting plugged in, it's like, wow, what we're doing here is awesome. Yeah. And you finally get to see it unwind in front of you. So that's, for me, probably the two biggest things.
What would be something, maybe for the student, I'm thinking of the incoming ninth grader. Maybe they've been here for a while, maybe they haven't, but high school is a whole different ballgame than middle school. You get a lot more freedom, there's a lot more responsibilities, there's a lot more opportunities, there's a lot more activities. What would you say to somebody, because I know you've done a really good job of this because I've seen it firsthand, surround themselves with somebody or a group of people who love the Lord and can really, encourage them on that walk. What would be just maybe some pointers you could give for somebody who's looking to do that?
I would say you're going to have to talk to a lot of people, especially for me because I was new. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know their background, what they did. And so I didn't know their past. So I have to figure out who these people are. Yeah. And you have to really pray about it and just think are these people I want to hang around? Yeah. And I mean, from 9th to 12th grade, people change then too. Mm-hmm. It's huge. So the hardest part is just finding people that help you grow and keeping hold of them and making sure that they don't lose track as well. Yeah. But I mean, it's literally just talking to people, figuring out who they are, what they think, what they believe, and just seeing if that lines up with what you want to do.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is you're kind of talking about that. I think back to kind of my own time in this building as a student. I don't really remember any of the chapels and a lot of the conversations we had in class, but I remember the way that the students and the teachers like made me feel. I remember the culture. And so with that, I think there's a lot of very good points you're making there to surround yourself with some people that are going to edify you, that are going to push you towards Christ, that are going to kind of love you unconditionally and even call you out when you're acting like a moron, right? So I think that's a really good thing. How do you, I mean, obviously good at school, good at soccer. You're going to play soccer in college. How do you balance it all and not go crazy?
It's honestly, it's all about priorities. If, like what's most important, what's coming up closest to time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for me, if I truly care about something, I'm going to get it done. Because, it means something to me. It means something to see that all come to fruition and stuff. But, I mean, it's really just, it's a lot of load management, figuring out like, okay, this assignment is due next week, but this one's due in 2 days. Let me do the one that's in 2 days instead of the next week one,
Or 2 hours.
Exactly, 100%. And so, I mean, it's a lot of studying in the car, studying during activity period or study hall or whatever like that. It's all about making the most of your time. Yeah. That's really how you do it. There's really no time to just sit there and do nothing if you want to excel at everything that you do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you're talking about the idea of intentionality, right? Like it's not just seeing, oh, I've got stuff to do. It's how am I going to get this done? How would you encourage somebody, or how would you encourage somebody to not only live with that level of intentionality, but also rest? Because I think sometimes, we can run ourselves ragged with all the stuff we have to do. How did you personally find kind of at least a rhythm to just breathe within all of that?
So, biggest one, read the Bible. Because, it's so much, you can find so many different passages and verses that kind of just make you go, you just breathe. It's kind of like, okay, I feel better. But I mean, on top of that, kind of a different path I'm taking here, but instead of like studying for 5 hours and being on your phone for that, study for 1 hour super hard, and then you can just relax. Yeah. And it's literally like I struggle with that freshman, sophomore year because I'm just like, oh, I just want to play my phone, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I mean, once I like matured, it's like I can study hard, get everything done, and then I can relax.
Well, and you're right, because that 1 hour of focused study can be even more fruitful than 5 hours of distracted. Exactly. I'm on Snapchat and TikTok. Yep. And I get that too, because if I'm not super focused, I'm really not getting much of anything done. Not at all. And I think people are like, I studied 10 hours for that thing. Well, you actually probably only study about 15 minutes worth of quality time. So even once again, there's that intentionality. So, one of the things I think you were intentional with, and I've seen this with some of our students too, the Ecuador trip, right? So that was probably kind of being on that trip with you. We both went to Ecuador together last year, just kind of knowing what that trip meant to you. Would you encourage other students to take advantage of opportunities like that, and why?
Oh, 100%. I mean, for me personally, I think it's the struggle of like, am I really going for me or am I going for them? But I mean, once you get there, it's one of those things where it's like all that worrying and all that thing, it all goes away. Yeah. You're just like, man, this is awesome. Like you see so much love in those kids, and it's just like you look at what they have and what we have, and you're just like, what we have is the world to them, but they have so much more. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but they just have so much more. Yeah. Because it's like that love, that joy they have, even though like just a hug, just a smile, it's like everything to them. And you're just like, wow, they have true joy. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's so hard because you just see so much love and joy found in those kids, and it's just like, it makes you so much more grateful for what you have. Yeah. And it's just like I saw myself grow just as much as I saw like the school or stuff like that grow, and I'm just it's so awesome.
Well, I know our ministry partner down there, and this is an Ecuador trip we take every year, down into the jungle of Ecuador. What was that bus ride? 10 hours or something like that?
I don't know. I slept the whole time.
It was, I took a drink with me, and I was out as well. But I mean, it's deep into the Ecuadorian jungle, and so these students and their families that we work with, we partner with the school down there. They don't have, I mean, we're filming in front of Briarcrest. They don't have all of this. And this is a great blessing. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, this is an awesome opportunity. But yet, you see, I think what you're articulating, and tell me if you agree with this, is that joy in Christ is found in the intangibles of who he is and how much he loves us and what he's doing. And I think that's something that we kind of all open our eyes to when we're down there. And then I've told our ministry partner that, like, hey, here's the deal. Like, you're ministering to us just as much, if not more, than we're able to minister to you. So thank you for letting us come. What about to the student who would say, we got our Ecuador trips. We'll go out and we'll volunteer with organizations in town like Las Americas. We do our student leadership university trips. But maybe just since you've been on Ecuador, speak specifically to a student that would say, hey, I've seen the Ecuador chapels. I know that's a thing we do. We had 3 trips planned that got canceled this year. We were going to take 60 people from Briarcrest. Speak specifically to the person who would say, I'm not sure I want to do that. Tell them why they would want to do that, even if they're on the fence about that.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak a little bit to that because I was one of those people. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, man, am I really ready for that? You're like, man, I don't want to go there and just be like a disappointment. You don't want to just let everyone down, let those kids down. It feels like there's so much pressure, and that's what held me back. But then once I got there, it's just like all that goes out the window. Yeah. It's just you and the kids. It's just you and building the school. You realize that it's much bigger than anything you could worry about. Yeah. Any struggle you have, what you're doing down there is so much bigger than you.
Well, and I think you're getting at just kind of a fear in ministry in general, right? Mm-hmm. Like whenever we put ourselves out there trying to minister to somebody, the fear is always, oh my gosh, what if this fails? What if this doesn't go? What if I don't have the words to say? And I think your experience would dictate what the Word of God says ultimately, is that God's the one doing the work. We're just the vessels through which he's doing it. And oftentimes he's doing work in spite of us, not because of us. And then the greatest work that we see him doing is what we see him doing in ourselves. 100%. So I think that's really encouraging. Now, headed off to college in how many weeks? When do you leave? I
leave August 6th, and I get into my dorm August 7th.
Okay, so headed off to college August 7th. Yep. What are some things you feel like you were able to take advantage of here that has helped you, not just academically and athletically? I mean, I know you're prepared in those 2 ways, but spiritually. Because, I mean, having spent time with you in the classroom, gone with Ecuador to you, speaking in chapel last year, I know that the Lord has done and continues to do a work in you. So what are some things that, like, students who are coming in, I'm thinking of some freshmen and sophomores who are like, hey, I want to be ready to go to college, and I don't want to lose my faith when I get there. Yeah. What are some things that just have meant a lot to you that you would encourage those students with?
Every time I think about this, it's the same thing comes back. It's all about your class that I took junior year, that Defense of the Faith or apologetics. It makes so many connections, and it's just like it reveals so much. It's like, how can you not believe in God? It's just like whenever someone gives you this argument, boom, you got this one that just basically just makes that one void. Yeah. That class is honestly the thing that prepared me most, because it's like, if I don't know an answer, I can just go back to my notes, or I can just text you, be like, hey, what's the deal with this? Like, can you explain it to me? And it's boom, right there. Yeah. So it's just.
Well, and I like that too, because, here's the deal. Like, as I'm teaching that class, I don't remember everything that we're going to talk about. I have to go back to my notes and look and see. But I think what's really good is if you're in an environment like that, where you're able to, 9 months, you're in that class 3 hours a week. You know that you might not know the answer off the top of your head, but there probably is an answer out there. And I think the biggest thing that's good to know about this is somebody who's pushing back against Christianity and saying it's not true. They're operating by faith as well. It's not like we're operating by faith and they're operating by, the tag would be we're operating by science. Well, that's fine, but we would talk about how science can tell you, what's going on with COVID-19. Science can't tell you whether or not you should, shut the country down economically to keep everybody home, to keep people from getting sick. That's a moral decision, right? So it's just stuff like that I think helps just us understand what you're talking about, which I think is great. So what do you think, just going into college, what are you expecting the biggest kind of life differences to be between kind of where you are now? So, last 9 weeks notwithstanding, that was kind of an anomaly, but just being generally a high school student, transitioning from being a high school student to college student, college athlete. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
What are kind of your expectations going forward?
My expectations. I don't know. I know that it's going to be different because I'm going to a place that I don't know a single person.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone there. I really don't know my roommate at all. I just know he's another soccer kid. And so it's going to be one of those things where I expect it to be a challenge. That's what I kind of can sum it up to, just because I know that I'm going to have to step out of my comfort zone. I'm going to have to be like extroverted, just so I can make friends, not go into that, like depression stage that everyone talks about, being so alone and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I know it's school's going to be harder. I'm going to have to balance even more athletics on top of that. So I know it's going to be different and it's going to be hard, but I know that it's still doable.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you're going in with those expectations that it might not be the easiest road, but it sounds like you're resigned to the fact it'll be worth it. Whatever the challenges are, it'll be worth putting the time into. Now, we got some rising seniors that'll have to make college decisions. Just kind of knowing how that went with you and all the craziness involved in that, and kind of now how everything's settled down and you're excited and laser focused. What's just some advice you could give to the student who's entering senior year and they would look at you and say, I have no idea where I'm going to college?
Look, I'll share a little bit about me. I was set on a college. I was set, I'm going this place. And then third quarter senior year, boom, switches. I can't go there anymore. So now it's just like, it's a massive curveball. I have to go look at more colleges. I have to go do this, all that stuff. And I'm basically just going through the process all over again. But I mean, the biggest advice I could give someone is that you're going to end up where you're meant to be. Like, no matter what, whatever place God has in store for you, that's where you're going to end up. Because I mean, for me, like, I thought I was like, this is the perfect place. This is where I'm supposed to be, whatever like that. But turns out I'm not. And what happened to me ended up being the best thing for me. Because now I'm in the place where I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. So it's awesome just to think that it's not under your control, Yeah. Like he has it under control.
Well, and that gets at what you said earlier about being in Ecuador, ministering, right? Like, we get so anxious and worked up, and of course you had to make a decision. You went and looked at these colleges. You adjusted to new news and finding out this wasn't going to work, and you needed, right, you were in the process, but it's kind of like as you lay your head on your pillow tonight, you're going to be like, hey, God's ultimately in control of this. And he's a good father who's going to take care of me regardless of where I end up. That's where I'm supposed to be, regardless of the good and the bad that happen when I get there. So I think that's great. Well, is there any last words of encouragement you might give towards any of our current students, future students, faculty, just any blanket statement, word of encouragement?
I don't know. I know there's so much going on right now. Riots, COVID-19. There's just so much negativity going around right now. And so I would encourage everyone just not get too focused on that negativity. There's still some positive stuff going on right now. So like, I know, I forgot his name. He's from The Office, like John Krasinski, I think. Mm-hmm. He's doing like a good news, like a little segment where it's like, this is good news going on right now. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like that little light, just focus on that light. Because, I mean, it makes everything so much more bearable, and you can get through it, and you still have hope and joy that there's going to be something after this. Yeah,
and you're talking about the light. The light of Christ is what I was thinking about as you were saying that, and there's always hope. And that's something, as soon as all this COVID stuff started, like, I was like, hey, this is totally upending everything we had planned. Yep. I mean, we had spent weeks, months even planning trips that we're just like, all right, got to cancel them now. Yeah. But I was like, hey, we still have a hope because the tomb's empty. If Jesus emptied the tomb and he promises he's going to come back and he loves us enough to die for us, right? Like, that's really all I need to continue to push forward no matter what happens today or tomorrow. Yep. So, man, well, I appreciate you being with us. Thanks for taking time out of your day to be up here on this warm afternoon.
Yeah, it's toasty.
Nice and humid out here. But, hey, at least we can be on school grounds again, which is nice. So,
100%.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I just want to remind you, we'd love for you to subscribe to both the podcast and the YouTube channel, and that way you can be alerted as we continue to have amazing guests and more content coming out. We hope to see you soon.